Emperor Zephyros stood in front of a massive window on his warship. The stars looked cold and distant. Behind him, his top generals sat around a long metal table. They had been planning for months. Soon they would destroy the humans. "The humans are getting too strong," said Admiral Kairos. He was an old warrior with scars across his face. "They build new colonies every month. They take planets that should belong to us." The Emperor nodded. His people, the Valdorians, had ruled this part of space for 1,000 years. They were taller than humans, with pointed ears and pale skin. Their eyes could see things humans could not. They lived longer and were stronger. They believed they were better. "How many ships do we have ready?" the Emperor asked. 3,000 ships wait at the edge of their solar system, another general reported. "Our weapons are charged. Our soldiers are ready. We can attack in 3 days," the Emperor smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Good. In 3 days I will speak to the Galactic Council. I will tell them we are at war with humanity. Then we will show them why they should fear us." Far away on a small space station near Earth, Princess Aria sat in her bedroom. She looked nothing like her father. Where he was cold and angry, she was curious and gentle. She had been living here for almost a year now. The space station was a place where different alien races could meet. Her father had sent her here to learn about humans. He called it studying the enemy, but Aria had learned to call it something else. She called it home. Every morning she took a shuttle down to Earth. She went to a human school called Lincoln High School. The humans thought she was just a foreign exchange student from a faraway country. They did not know she was the daughter of their greatest enemy. At school she was known as Ari. She had learned to speak like the human teenagers. She wore their clothes and ate their food. She even had friends. But sometimes late at night she would get messages from her father's ship. The messages always asked the same questions. How many weapons did the humans have? How fast were their ships? What were their weaknesses? Aria always sent back the same type of answers. She told them about human technology and their defenses. But she never told them about the other things she had learned. She never told them how humans laughed when they were happy. She never told them how they cried when they were sad. She never told them how they helped each other, even when they were strangers. On Earth, in a small town in Ohio, Jake Morrison was having a normal day. He woke up late, ate breakfast too fast, and ran to catch the school bus. He was 17 years old and had brown hair that never wanted to stay in place. His friends always made fun of how he could fix any machine but could not fix his own hair. Jake lived with his parents in a small house with a big garage. His father, Bill, fixed cars for a living. His mother, Linda, worked at the local hospital as a nurse. They were good people who worked hard and took care of their family. At school, Jake was not the smartest student, but he was not the worst either. He played soccer and was pretty good at it. He had friends who liked him because he was honest and funny. He made people laugh without trying too hard. In his chemistry class, Jake sat near the back. 2 seats over sat the quiet exchange student that everyone called Ari. She had been at their school for months, but she still seemed different somehow. Her eyes were an unusual purple color, and sometimes she asked strange questions about normal things. Jake had noticed that Ari did not have many friends. She was smart, maybe the smartest person in their class, but she always seemed like she was watching everything instead of joining in. Sometimes he caught her staring at him during class, but when he looked back, she would quickly look away. "Hey, Ari," Jake said after class one day. "Do you want to sit with us at lunch?" Ari looked surprised. In her world, princes and princesses did not eat with common people. But here, this human boy was asking her to join him like it was the most normal thing in the world. "I would like that," she said. At lunch, Jake introduced Ari to his friends. There was Ryan, who was tall and played basketball. There was Emma, who was dating a girl named Sam and did not care who knew it. There was Alex, who used a wheelchair but could beat anyone at video games. They talked about normal teenage things. Who was dating who? What movies were good? What teachers gave too much homework? Ari listened and tried to understand. These humans were so different from what her father had told her. Back on the warship, Emperor Zephyros looked at the latest reports from his daughter. She wrote about human military bases and their spaceships. She wrote about their weapons and their defenses. All useful information for the coming war. But there were other things in her reports too. Small things that the Emperor did not understand. She wrote about something called friendship. She wrote about humans who helped each other for no reason. She wrote about a thing called kindness that seemed to make humans stronger, not weaker. The Emperor put down the reports. These were the thoughts of a young person who did not understand the real world. Soon his daughter would come home. Soon she would see the humans for what they really were, enemies who needed to be destroyed. 3 more days, he said to himself. In 3 days, this will all be over. But the Emperor did not know that his daughter was already changing. And he did not know that change would soon reach him too. The war clock was ticking, but something else was growing. Something that might be stronger than any weapon. Something that might save them all. Princess Arya walked through the halls of Lincoln High School like she belonged there. After months of practice, she had learned to move like a human teenager. She carried her books the right way. She talked about the right things. But inside, she still felt like a stranger. Every morning when she looked in the mirror, she had to hide who she really was. She used special makeup to make her ears look normal. She wore contact lenses to make her purple eyes look brown. She practiced speaking without her Valdorian accent. But the hardest part was not the physical changes. The hardest part was understanding human emotions. Where she came from, feelings were seen as weakness. Valdorian children were taught to be strong and cold. They were taught that caring about others would make them soft. Yet here she watched humans be strong because they cared about each other. She saw them fight harder when they were protecting someone they loved. She saw them work together in ways her people never did. In chemistry class, Jake Morrison had started saying hello to her every day. At first, Arya did not know how to respond. In her world, you only spoke to people if you had business with them, but Jake seemed to say hello just to be friendly. "How was your weekend, Ari?" Jake asked one Monday morning. Arya thought about her real weekend. She had received a long message from her father about battle plans. She had studied reports about human weaknesses. She had practiced fighting skills in the empty cargo bay of the space station. "It was quiet," she said instead. "I studied a lot," Jake laughed. "You always study. Don't you ever just hang out and have fun?" Arya did not know how to answer. Fun was not something Valdorian princesses were supposed to have. "What do you do for fun?" she asked. "All kinds of stuff. Movies, games, just talking with friends. Sometimes we go to the park and play soccer. Sometimes we just sit around and eat pizza." Jake looked at her curiously. "What did you do for fun in your old country?" Arya panicked. She had not prepared an answer for this question. "We read books and studied history." "That sounds pretty boring," Jake said, but not in a mean way. "Maybe you should try some new things while you're here." That afternoon at lunch, Arya sat with Jake and his friends again. She was starting to look forward to these times. The other students talked and laughed about things that seemed silly, but they made her feel warm inside. Emma was showing everyone pictures on her phone. "Look, Sam and I went hiking this weekend. We saw the most amazing sunset. You two are so cute together," Ryan said. "How long have you been dating now?" 8 months, Emma said with a big smile. "My parents love her. They say she makes me happier." Arya listened with wonder. Emma was talking about choosing her own partner. Her parents were happy about her choice. This was so different from Valdorian culture, where marriages were arranged for political reasons. "What about you, Ari?" Sam asked. "Do you have a boyfriend back home?" Arya almost choked on her sandwich. "No. My family believes I should focus on my studies." "That's probably smart," Alex said. "But you're missing out on one of the best parts of being a teenager." "What do you mean?" Arya asked. "Dating, going to dances, all that stuff," Alex explained. "Like prom. It's coming up in a few weeks. The whole school gets dressed up and dances all night. It's really fun." Arya had heard about prom, but she did not really understand it. "What exactly is prom?" Everyone at the table stared at her. "You don't know what prom is?" Ryan asked. "In my country, we do not have such things," Arya said quickly. Jake leaned forward. "Prom is like a big dance for seniors. Everyone gets really dressed up. The girls wear fancy dresses and the guys wear tuxedos. There's music and dancing and photos. It's kind of like a celebration of finishing high school." "It sounds nice," Arya said, and she meant it. The idea of celebrating with friends seemed wonderful. "You should go," Emma said. "It would be so fun to help you pick out a dress." "I do not think I can," Arya said. "I would not know how to dance. And I would not have anyone to go with." Jake looked at her for a long moment. His friends were all staring at him with knowing looks. He felt his face getting red, but he took a deep breath. "Ari," he said, "would you like to go to prom with me?" The table went completely quiet. Arya felt like the world had stopped spinning. In her culture, formal partnerships were arranged by families. The idea of a young man simply asking her to attend a dance was completely foreign, but it was also exciting in a way she had never felt before. "You want to take me?" she asked. "Yeah," Jake said, and now he was definitely blushing. "I mean, if you want to. We're friends, right? And it would be fun. I could teach you to dance." Arya thought about what her father would say. She thought about her duty to her people. She thought about the war that was coming in just 2 days. But then she looked at Jake's hopeful face. She looked at his friends, who were all smiling and encouraging. These humans were offering her something she had never had before. "A choice, yes," she said quietly. "I would like to go to prom with you." The table erupted in cheers. Emma immediately started talking about dresses and shoes. Ryan patted Jake on the back. Alex started giving advice about dancing. Arya felt something she had never felt before. She felt happy. Not the cold satisfaction of completing a mission, but real warm happiness. That night she sent her daily report to her father's ship. She wrote about human social customs and their education system, but she did not write about prom. She did not write about Jake's invitation. She did not write about the strange feeling in her chest when he smiled at her. On the warship, Emperor Zephyros read his daughter's report. There was something different about her writing lately. She used to write about human weaknesses and how to exploit them. Now she wrote more about their customs and their ways of thinking. "She is getting too close to them," Admiral Kiros said. He had been reading the reports too. "We should bring her back now." "Not yet," the Emperor said. "She still has useful information to gather. And in 2 days it will not matter anymore." But that night the Emperor had trouble sleeping. He kept thinking about his daughter's words. She wrote about humans helping each other. She wrote about their loyalty to friends. She wrote about something called compassion that seemed to make them stronger instead of weaker. These were not the writings of a spy anymore. These were the writings of someone who was beginning to care about the people she was supposed to be studying. The Emperor looked out at the stars and wondered if he was making a mistake. But then he remembered his duty to his people. The humans were spreading too fast. They were taking too much space. They had to be stopped. 2 more days, he said to himself. Just 2 more days. But he did not know that his daughter had just accepted an invitation that would change everything. He did not know that in 2 days, instead of declaring war, he might be learning what it meant to be human. The clock was still ticking toward war. But now something else was ticking too. Something that might be even more powerful than armies and weapons. Something that might be love. The next morning, Princess Arya woke up feeling different. For the first time in months, she was excited about something that had nothing to do with her mission. She was going to prom with Jake Morrison. At breakfast on the space station, she sat with the other exchange students. There were young aliens from different worlds, all here to learn about humans. But none of them knew who she really was. "You look happy today," said Zek, a friendly alien from the Trion system. "Did something good happen?" "A human boy asked me to their formal dance," Arya said, trying to keep her voice calm. "That's wonderful," said Nira, a blue-skinned girl from the water world of Aquanus. "Human courtship rituals are so interesting. They choose their own partners based on feelings instead of logic." Arya nodded, but inside she felt confused. Was that what this was? Courtship? She had never thought about Jake that way. He was just kind to her. He made her laugh. He treated her like she mattered. Down on Earth, Jake was having his own confusing morning. At the breakfast table, his parents kept giving him knowing looks. "So?" his mother Linda said with a smile. "Ryan's mom called me last night. She said you asked someone to prom?" Jake nearly choked on his cereal. "Mom, can we not talk about this?" His father Bill laughed.
"Son, there's nothing wrong with asking a girl to dance."
"Tell us about her." "Her name is Ari. She's the exchange student in my chemistry class. She's really smart and nice." Jake did not know how to explain that there was something special about Ari that he could not quite understand. "Is she pretty?" Linda asked. "Mom!" Jake protested, but he was smiling. "Yes, she's pretty. But that's not why I asked her. She just seems lonely sometimes, like she doesn't quite fit in." Bill nodded approvingly. "That's a good reason, son. Everyone deserves to feel like they belong somewhere." Meanwhile, on the warship, Communication Officer Kex was doing his daily check of all messages going to and from the space station. It was routine work, but today he found something unusual. In Princess Arya's personal communication file, there was a message to her friend Nira. In it, she talked about something called Prom and a human boy named Jake. She wrote about being excited and nervous at the same time. Kex read the message 3 times to make sure he understood it correctly. Then he took it straight to the Emperor. Emperor Zephyros read his daughter's message in silence. His face grew darker with each word. When he finished, he crushed the datapad in his hand. "Get me a direct communication to my daughter, now," he ordered. Within minutes, Arya's communicator was buzzing with an urgent signal from the flagship. She was in chemistry class when it happened. She looked at Jake, who was sitting next to her, and felt her stomach twist with fear. "I have to take this," she whispered to their teacher, Mrs. Peterson. "It's from my family." In the empty hallway, Arya answered the call. Her father's angry face filled the small screen. "What is this nonsense about a dance?" he demanded. "Have you forgotten who you are? Have you forgotten your duty?" "Father, I can explain. You will return to the ship immediately," the Emperor interrupted. "Pack your belongings. You leave Earth today." Arya felt tears in her eyes. She had never cried before coming to Earth. "Please, Father. It's just one night. The prom is in 3 days. If I leave now, the humans will be suspicious. They will wonder why I left so suddenly." The Emperor paused. His daughter had a point. If she disappeared without explanation, it might alert the humans that something was wrong. "You have 3 days," he said finally. "After this dance, you come home immediately, and you will have no more contact with this human boy." The communication ended, leaving Arya alone in the hallway. She wiped her eyes and tried to calm down. 3 days. She had 3 days to figure out what to do. Back in chemistry class, Jake noticed that Ari looked upset when she returned. "Everything okay?" he whispered. "My family is worried about me going to the dance," she said. It was not exactly a lie. "Hey, if you changed your mind, that's okay," Jake said gently. "I mean, I really hope you didn't, but I understand if your family doesn't approve." Arya looked at his kind face and felt something break inside her chest. "No," she said firmly. "I want to go. My family will understand." After school, Jake's friends immediately surrounded them with prom plans. Emma had been thinking about dress shopping all day. "We need to go this weekend," Emma announced. "Ari, what's your favorite color?" I do not know," Arya said honestly. On her world, everyone wore the same gray uniforms. Personal preferences were not encouraged. "You don't know your favorite color?" Sam asked, surprised. "In my country, we do not think about such things," Arya said quickly. "Well, we're going to figure it out," Emma said with determination. "This is going to be so much fun." That weekend, Emma and Sam took Arya to the mall. It was Arya's first time in a human shopping center, and she was overwhelmed by all the choices and colors. "Try this one," Emma said, holding up a blue dress. "It would match your eyes." Arya stared at herself in the mirror. The dress was beautiful, but it was also completely different from anything she had ever worn. It was soft and flowing, not stiff and formal like Valdorian clothing. "I look strange," she said. "Are you kidding?" Sam said. "You look amazing. Jake is going to fall over when he sees you." While the girls were shopping, Jake was having his own preparation adventures. His father took him to rent a tuxedo, and his friends gave him advice about everything from dancing to flowers. "You need to get her a corsage," Ryan explained. "It's like a small flower arrangement that goes on her wrist." "What kind of flowers do girls like?" Jake asked. "How should I know?" Ryan laughed. "Ask your mom." Back on the warship, Emperor Zephyros was receiving reports from his spies throughout the galaxy. The human military was not preparing for war. They had no idea what was coming. In less than 48 hours, he would address the Galactic Council and begin the invasion. But he kept thinking about his daughter's message. She had written about excitement and nervousness. She had written about a boy who was kind to her. She had written about friends who wanted to help her. Admiral Kairos entered the Emperor's chamber. "Sir, the fleet is in position. All ships report ready for battle." "Good," the Emperor said, but his voice lacked its usual conviction. "Sir, if I may ask, what do we do about the princess? She is becoming too attached to the humans." The Emperor looked out at the stars. "After the prom, she comes home, and she will see that her feelings for these humans were just a childish mistake." But even as he said it, the Emperor was not sure he believed it anymore. On Earth, Arya was having dinner with her host family, the Johnsons. They were a kind older couple who had volunteered to house exchange students for years. "We're so excited that you're going to prom," Mrs. Johnson said. "It's such a special tradition." "Jake seems like a very nice young man," Mr. Johnson added. "We've met his parents at school events. Good people." Arya smiled, but inside she felt terrible. These people had welcomed her into their home. They had treated her like family. And in 2 days her father would declare war on their entire species. That night she lay in bed staring at the ceiling. She thought about Jake's smile. She thought about Emma's excitement about dress shopping. She thought about how Alex had offered to teach her to play video games. She thought about how Sam had shared her lunch when Arya forgot hers. These humans had shown her more kindness in a few months than she had experienced in her entire life, and soon her people would try to destroy them. For the first time in her life, Princess Arya began to wonder if her father was wrong. Tomorrow was prom. Tomorrow everything would change. But she did not yet know how much. Prom night arrived with a spring rain that made everything smell fresh and clean. Arya stood in front of the mirror in her room at the Johnson house, hardly recognizing herself. The blue dress that Emma had helped her choose seemed to glow in the soft light. Mrs. Johnson had helped her with her hair, pulling it up in a style that looked elegant, but still let her feel like herself. For tonight, she had decided not to hide her purple eyes. She told everyone they were special contact lenses. "You look beautiful, dear," Mrs. Johnson said, tears in her eyes. Like a princess. Arya's heart skipped. If only she knew how true that was. The doorbell rang and Arya's stomach filled with butterflies. Through her hidden communicator, she knew her father was watching. The Emperor had installed tiny cameras in her jewelry so he could monitor her activities. Tonight he would see everything. Jake stood at the front door holding a small box with a corsage inside. He wore a black tuxedo that his father had helped him pick out. His usually messy hair was neatly combed and he had a nervous smile on his face. When Arya appeared at the top of the stairs, Jake's mouth fell open. On the warship millions of miles away, Emperor Zephyros had the same reaction. His daughter looked radiant in a way he had never seen before. "You look amazing," Jake said softly when she reached the bottom of the stairs. "Thank you," Arya replied, feeling her cheeks turn pink. "You look very handsome too." Mr. Johnson insisted on taking pictures while Mrs. Johnson fussed over the corsage. Jake carefully slipped the small circle of white flowers around Arya's wrist. His hands were shaking slightly. "Are you nervous?" Arya asked. "A little," Jake admitted. "I've never been to prom before either." They drove to the school in Jake's father's car. Jake had spent all afternoon cleaning it until it sparkled. The school gymnasium had been transformed with lights and decorations. A banner read "Starlight Dreams" in silver letters. "It's beautiful," Arya breathed. Inside, the dance was already in full swing. Students filled the decorated gym, all dressed in their finest clothes. The girls wore dresses in every color imaginable, and the boys looked grown up in their tuxedos. Emma and Sam rushed over immediately. "Ari, you look incredible," Emma squealed. "That dress is perfect on you." Ryan appeared with his date, a girl named Katie from their English class. Alex was there too, his wheelchair decorated with ribbons that matched his date's dress. "Jake, you clean up pretty well," Ryan teased. "I almost didn't recognize you without motor oil on your hands." The group found a table and sat down together. Arya watched everything with wide eyes. The decorations, the music, the happy faces of her classmates. It was like stepping into a fairy tale. On the warship, Emperor Zephyros watched through his daughter's hidden camera. He saw the human teenagers laughing and talking together. He saw how they included each other, how they celebrated their friends' happiness. It was not what he had expected. "Sir," Admiral Kairos said, entering the Emperor's chamber, "the Galactic Council is ready for your address. Shall I tell them you're prepared to announce the war?" "Not yet," the Emperor said, his eyes still fixed on the screen. "I want to see more of this human ritual." The music started and couples began moving onto the dance floor. Jake stood up and offered his hand to Arya. "I should warn you," he said with a grin. "I'm not a very good dancer." "That's okay," Arya replied, taking his hand. "I don't know how to dance at all." Jake led her onto the floor just as a slow song began. He placed one hand gently on her waist and took her other hand in his. Arya felt her heart racing. "Just follow my lead," Jake said softly, "and don't worry if we step on each other's feet." They moved slowly to the music, and Arya was surprised at how natural it felt. Jake was patient and gentle, guiding her through the simple steps. Around them, other couples swayed to the music, lost in their own worlds. "This is nice," Arya said, looking up into Jake's kind brown eyes. "Yeah, it is," Jake agreed. "I'm really glad you came with me tonight." "Me too," Arya said, and she meant it with all her heart. As they danced, Arya felt something she had never experienced before. She felt completely safe and happy. For the first time in her life, she was not thinking about duty or war or politics. She was just a girl dancing with a boy who made her smile. The Emperor watched his daughter's face through the camera. He had never seen her look so peaceful, so genuinely happy. In all her years of royal training and formal events, she had never smiled the way she was smiling now. The song ended, but before they could leave the dance floor, the music changed to something faster. Emma and Sam appeared beside them. "Come on, we'll teach you the fun dances." Emma laughed. What followed was 30 minutes of pure joy. The group of friends taught Arya silly dance moves and cheered when she got them right. They spun her around and made her laugh until her sides hurt. When she tripped over her own feet, they helped her up and kept dancing. The Emperor watched in growing amazement. These human teenagers were celebrating someone they had only known for a few months. They were taking time from their own special night to make sure his daughter felt included and happy. "Why are they doing this?" he asked aloud. "Sir?" Admiral Kairos looked confused. "Why are they being so kind to her? What do they gain from it?" The Admiral studied the screen. "Perhaps it's a trick. Maybe they suspect who she really is." But the Emperor shook his head. He could see the genuine joy on these young faces. There was no deception here, no hidden agenda. These humans were being kind simply because that was who they were. Later in the evening, the prom court was announced. Alex, the boy in the wheelchair, was crowned prom king. The entire room erupted in cheers as his friends lifted his crown high in the air. "Alex deserved it," Jake explained to Arya as they watched. "He's the nicest guy in our class. When new kids don't have anyone to sit with at lunch, Alex always makes room at his table." Arya watched as Alex gave a short speech about friendship and inclusion. She saw students of all different backgrounds cheering for him. She saw couples of different races dancing together happily. She saw two boys dancing together while their friends smiled and took pictures. This was nothing like what her father had told her about humans. He had said they were violent and selfish, that they only cared about themselves. But what she saw was the opposite. She saw a species that celebrated differences instead of fearing them. As the night went on, Jake introduced Arya to more of his classmates. Everyone was friendly and welcoming. They asked about her home country and told her how glad they were that she was part of their class. "You're so lucky to experience prom," said a girl named Beth. "It's one of those things you remember forever." Near the end of the dance, Jake and Arya found themselves alone on a balcony outside the gym. The spring air was cool and fresh after the warmth inside. "Thank you for tonight," Arya said softly. "This has been the most wonderful evening of my life." Jake looked surprised. "And really? But you must have been to lots of fancy parties back home." Arya thought about the cold, formal ceremonies of her world. They weren't like this. "They weren't happy. What do you mean?" Arya struggled to find the words. "Where I come from, everything is about duty and honor. People don't choose to be together because they like each other. They don't celebrate just for the joy of it. Tonight I felt like I was part of something beautiful." Jake smiled. "You are part of something beautiful. You're part of our group now. You're our friend." Arya felt tears in her eyes. Friend. It was such a simple word, but it meant everything to her. On the warship, Emperor Zephyros turned off the screen. He had seen enough. "Sir?" Admiral Kairos asked. "Are you ready to address the council?" The Emperor sat in silence for a long moment. He thought about his daughter's smile. He thought about the young human who had treated her with such kindness. He thought about a species that crowned a boy in a wheelchair as their king because he was good to others. "Delay the address," he said finally. "Sir, delay the address. I need more time to think." For the first time in 1,000 years of Valdorian rule, an emperor was questioning whether war was the answer. And on Earth, a princess was learning what it meant to be truly happy. The morning after prom, Arya sat on the front steps of Lincoln High School with Jake. The building was quiet and empty, so different from the magical place it had been the night before. In her hand, she held the corsage Jake had given her. The flowers were starting to wilt, but she couldn't bear to throw them away. I had an amazing time last night, Jake said, breaking the comfortable silence between them. So did I, Arya replied softly. She looked at Jake's honest face and felt her heart breaking. Soon she would have to leave Earth forever. Soon her father would declare war on Jake's people, and Jake would never know why unless she told him. Jake, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, I need to tell you something. Something important. Okay, Jake said, turning to face her completely. You can tell me anything. Arya took a deep breath. What she was about to do went against everything she had been taught. But she couldn't lie to Jake anymore. Not after last night. I'm not who you think I am, she began. Jake looked confused. What do you mean? I'm not really an exchange student from another country. I'm from another planet, another world entirely. Jake stared at her for a moment, then laughed nervously. Come on, Ari, that's not funny. Arya reached up and removed her contact lenses, revealing her true purple eyes. Then she pulled off the small device that had been hiding her pointed ears. My real name is Princess Arya of the Valdorian Empire. My father is Emperor Zephyros, and he is planning to declare war on humanity today. Jake's face went pale. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. I was sent here to study humans, Arya continued, tears streaming down her face. I was supposed to find your weaknesses so my people could defeat you. But instead I found something else. I found friendship. I found kindness. I found you. Jake stood up suddenly and walked a few steps away. He ran his hands through his hair, trying to process what he had just heard. So everything was a lie? He asked finally. Our friendship? Last night? No, Arya said, jumping to her feet. That was the only real thing in my life. You were the first person who ever treated me like I mattered just for being me. Not because I was a princess or because you wanted something from me, but just because you're kind. Jake turned back to her, and she could see he was struggling with everything she had told him. Are you going to help your father hurt us? He asked quietly. Never, Arya said firmly. I would rather die than let anyone hurt you or your family or your friends. But I don't know how to stop this. The Valdorian fleet has 3,000 ships. They're waiting at the edge of your solar system right now. Jake sat back down heavily on the steps. 3,000 ships, he repeated. How many people are we talking about? Enough to destroy every city on Earth, Arya said, her voice breaking. They sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Jake reached over and took Arya's hand. I believe you, he said. And I believe that you don't want to hurt us. So what do we do now? Before Arya could answer, her communicator buzzed with an urgent message. It was from her father's ship. Princess Arya, return to the station immediately. You will be transported to the flagship within the hour. Arya showed the message to Jake. I have to go, she said. If I don't, they'll come looking for me. Then we go together, Jake said. What? No, Jake, you don't understand. If my father sees you, maybe that's exactly what needs to happen, Jake said. Maybe he needs to see what humans are really like. An hour later, Arya and Jake stood on the transport platform of the space station. Jake had called his parents and told them he was going on a field trip. It wasn't exactly a lie. The Valdorian transport ship was sleek and silver, nothing like the friendly shuttles that carried students to Earth each day. As they flew toward the massive war fleet, Jake stared out the window in amazement. Those ships are huge, he whispered. Each one carries 10,000 warriors, Arya said. My people are very good at war. It's all we've known for 1,000 years. They docked with the flagship, and Arya led Jake through corridors filled with tall, pale aliens in military uniforms. Everyone they passed stared at Jake with a mixture of curiosity and disgust. Emperor Zephyros was waiting for them in his private chamber. He was even taller than the other Valdorians, with silver hair and cold gray eyes. When he saw Jake, his face darkened with anger. What is the meaning of this? He demanded. Why have you brought this human here? Father, this is Jake Morrison, Arya said, stepping protectively in front of Jake. He's my friend. You were not sent to make friends, the Emperor said coldly. You were sent to gather intelligence. I did gather intelligence, Arya replied. I learned that everything you told me about humans was wrong. The Emperor's eyes flashed dangerously. Guards, remove this human from my ship. Wait, Jake said, stepping forward. Arya tried to stop him, but he gently moved her aside. Your Majesty, I know you don't think much of humans, and I know you probably have good reasons for wanting to fight us. But before you start a war, maybe you should meet some ordinary humans. See what we're really like. The Emperor stared at Jake in surprise. He had expected the human to beg for mercy or try to run. He had not expected him to make a reasonable request. You want me to meet more humans? The Emperor asked. Yes, sir. My family, my friends. Just regular people. If you're going to destroy us, shouldn't you know who you're destroying? 2 hours later, the Emperor found himself standing in the living room of the Morrison family home. It was the first time in his life he had been inside a human dwelling. Linda Morrison came out of the kitchen carrying a tray of coffee and cookies. Can I get you anything else, Your Majesty? We have sandwiches if you're hungry. The Emperor stared at her. This human woman was offering him food. Him, the leader of an enemy fleet. Why are you being kind to me? He asked bluntly. Linda looked surprised by the question. Because you're a guest in our home, and because you're Ari's father. Bill Morrison came in from the garage, wiping his hands on a towel. Your Majesty, I hope you don't mind, but I took a look at your transport ship. Beautiful engineering. Mind if I ask what kind of fuel system you use? For the next hour, the Emperor found himself in the strangest conversation of his life. Bill Morrison, a simple human mechanic, was asking him technical questions about Valdorian technology with genuine curiosity and respect. You built those ships yourself? Bill asked with admiration. My people have always been good with machines, the Emperor replied. That's incredible. Jake gets his mechanical talent from me. But what you guys have built is on a whole different level. The Emperor looked at Jake, who was sitting next to Arya on the couch. Your son fixed my daughter's broken heart, he said quietly. Bill smiled. That's my boy. He's always been good at fixing things. That evening, Jake's grandmother Betty came for dinner. She was a small, elderly woman with kind eyes and gray hair. When she learned who the Emperor was, she just nodded calmly. So you're the one planning to start a war with us, she said. The Emperor tensed, expecting anger or fear. Yes, Betty studied his face for a moment. You know, my husband fought in World War II. He used to tell me that the hardest part about war wasn't the fighting. It was remembering that the enemy had families too. Children who loved them, parents who worried about them. She reached over and patted the Emperor's hand gently. Your daughter is a lovely girl. She talks about you all the time. She loves you very much. The Emperor felt something crack inside his chest. She does? Of course she does. You're her father, but she loves these humans too now, and love isn't something you can just turn off because it's inconvenient. That night, the Emperor stood alone on the Morrisons' back porch, looking up at the stars. Arya found him there. Father, she said softly. I watched you at that dance, he said without turning around. I saw how happy you were. I was happy, Arya admitted. In 1,000 years of Valdorian history, I have never seen anyone look as happy as you did in that moment. They stood in comfortable silence for a while. Finally, the Emperor spoke again. Tomorrow I was supposed to address the Galactic Council and declare war on humanity. What will you do instead? Arya asked. The Emperor turned to look at his daughter. Tomorrow I will announce that the Valdorian Empire wishes to form an alliance with humanity. We have much to learn from each other. Arya threw her arms around her father, something she had never done before. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me yet, the Emperor said with a small smile. You'll have to stay here as our first ambassador, and I suspect that young man of yours will want to come study on our worlds. Jake wants to be an engineer, Arya said. He would love to learn about our technology. And perhaps we can learn about human compassion, the Emperor said. It seems to be a very powerful force. 1 year later, Princess Arya stood at the podium of the newly built Human Valdorian Cultural Center. She wore a simple blue dress, her favorite color, she had discovered, and her natural purple eyes sparkled with happiness. 1 year ago, she said to the mixed crowd of humans and Valdorians, my people and your people were preparing for war. But something wonderful happened instead. A boy asked a girl to dance, and in that simple act of kindness, 2 civilizations found peace. In the audience, Jake Morrison sat with his parents, wearing the dress uniform of the Valdorian Engineering Academy. He was scheduled to leave for his studies on the